Okay, great. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to the September 28th meeting for the Design Advisory Panel. And we'll get started. First of all, everybody's had a chance to look at the agenda. Any additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Kevin, seconder. Seconder, Jonathan. Hector, maybe you can turn your camera on so we can see you voting. That would be appreciated. Thanks. Okay, and all in favor? Okay, we'll pass that. We have one set of minutes to approve this evening. They were from September 14th, our last meeting. Was there any concerns about the minutes that anybody noticed? Nothing? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Kevin again, seconder, Jonathan again. Great. And all in favor? Okay, excellent. So we can get things underway. So we have two presentations this evening. The first one is an applicant returning for a property on Island Highway, and Peyton Carter will introduce the project. Go ahead, Peyton.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to see you all again. As Marie mentioned, DP 1300 is an application that is returning to the design panel, and it was previously considered on July 13th, 2023, where the applicant was asked to return to the panel after considering the recommendations that the design panel provided. DP 1300 is an automobile dealership comprising of 1,987 square meters of total floor area. The subject property is zoned mixed-use corridor and is designated as residential corridor in the city plan. The automobile dealership is permitted as a site-specific use on this property, and the subject property is located on the north side of the Island Highway, south of the intersections of Victoria Avenue and 106th Street. It falls within Development Permit Area 8, which is our form and character development permit area, and the general development permit area design guidelines do apply to this development. There are a number of variances proposed with this development. The first is to increase the maximum allowable front yard setback from 6 meters to 16.43 meters. Variance is also required for the proposed vehicle display area to be located between the front face of the building and the front property line, and also includes some parking within the maximum front yard setback area. Lastly, the zoning bylaw requires a minimum building height of 2 full stories above grade. As the proposed building is not comprised of that 2 full stories, a variance will be required there as well. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and as always, I'm happy to take questions after the applicant has completed their presentation.
Great, thanks, Peyton. Okay, the applicant may go ahead. Who's presenting this evening?
I am Madam Chair, Alan Lowe.
Okay, so you're welcome to share your screen. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, share screen. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the design panel. We are returning with this application that was seen, I think, about 2 or 3 months ago. The major issue at that time and the major differences that really affected the review of this was the location of the building. And we do totally understand that there was a desire from the design panel to have us locate the building closer to the corner of 107th and the Island Highway. But in discussions with my client as well as the owner, it is virtually impossible to do that on this project, mainly because the dealership has to continue to operate. The service bays are actually all within the building that is on the corner right now. And in order to use this site, we have to keep the operation and the business going. For those that may or may not understand car dealerships, the service portion of the car dealership is actually the money generator in the dealership, and the sale of cars is actually a bonus. When we look at this site and we see how the existing building is on the corner, we have a secondary building that is used for used car sales, etc., on in the middle, and a large compound at the corner of Victoria and 106, where we actually have the garbage and oil, etc., located. I will show you that this is the plans that we had proposed before. This shows dotted here the existing building that is on the site, and as you could see, it is virtually impossible to try to move this building onto this area and locate it on this corner without removing, demolishing, or just adding on to that building. What we have done, however, is we have, and if you could see along here, we've dealt with many of the items with respect to pedestrian walkways and trying to deal with the site, trying to deal with breaking up the massing of the asphalt paving, trying to bring pedestrians through safer through the site to the building, and looking at the various landscape areas that were requested at the last meeting. You will see here we now have a walkway that comes through the site to the proposed car dealership. We have put some ginkgo biloba trees all along here as a pathway. We've taken what used to be all asphalt, and we've put concrete material along the areas where we have the various car stalls, as well as all around the site, so that the sea asphalt is now broken up with concrete areas, as well as with the display area in front. The variances that we are requesting are still the same as previous. Materials, and we really didn't get into the materials of the building, etc., as much last time, because the majority of the discussion was the location of the building and the desire to have it on the corner. But following the corporate Nissan requirements, we have the silver ACM panels, red panel, which is the signage. We have some dark gray panels with some metal cladding, corrugated, and the service area is a tilt-up panel area. When we were here last time, somebody was talking about wayfinding, and there was no address on the building. There is now the address located at the front door here. We were asked to somehow break up the frontage a little bit at the service area, so we were able to add some clear story windows here. And similarly, there was a clear story window that was added on the east elevation here. If you take a look at before and after shots of what we had previously, there was no connection into the site, and the trees, some of them were invasive species that you had talked about, and what we've done now is we've actually brought a pedestrian walkway going straight through the site to the building, lined with the ginkgo trees along here, and we've changed the trees along Victoria Avenue so that they're not the invasive species. If you also take a look at this overview perspective here, this was what was there before that we had presented, and now we've actually put the purple robe trees that are along Victoria Avenue here. Again, looking at this perspective going up the Island Highway North, we could see that we now have a tree line along here, which allows for pedestrians to enter our site safer, and gives you a pathway. And whether they're on Victoria or whether they cross the crosswalk along the Island Highway and 107th, they still have access all along 107th into the site. Going the other way, you will also see what has been changed with various species of trees, and the landscape architect has enhanced the corners with some additional landscaping. The Victoria Avenue perspective here and the new trees, we've doubled the quantity of trees here as well, and we're hoping that this will create a nice buffer along Victoria Avenue. We are still, however, working with the City of Nanaimo Engineering Department to determine what right-of-way will be required along along Victoria Avenue, and to see where street parking will be and sidewalks. So that is still a work in progress with the engineering department. Another view of the corner here, and here you could see that we have an enclosure around the oil storage and the garbage, and here you see that the garbage enclosure is corrugated metal, similar to materials that we have actually on the building. Just a case in point, the garbage enclosure here is probably about 20% the size of the garbage enclosure that is existing on site right now. Again, just a few perspectives of what we have on site and what we're proposing. Here is, unfortunately, Jim Partlow, our landscape architect, was not able to join us today, but this is the landscape plan previously, and you will see that now we actually have the row of trees along the site here. We have the walkway. We have these parking areas that are now all in concrete all around the site. We have more trees along Victoria Avenue and different species. We've also put different species of grasses along the along this rain garden area here. I know that Scott, I think, is here. I don't know if Scott wanted to add anything with your revised plans. Scott, did you want to say anything?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so our civil plans are just going to be updated for the changes in the landscaping areas, and that would be the our retention and detention components of the stormwater management. But it's actual minimal changes to the storage requirements, which we'll be able to accommodate with the layout that we have. And that's about it that I have.
Thanks, Scott. So that is our presentation of the various changes that we've made to the project, and we would like to open it up for discussion.
Great, thanks, Ellen. You can stop sharing your screen. Be great, thanks. Okay, does anybody have any questions for staff before we get going? Kevin?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. Quickly to Peyton. So the two variances that are still, I think last time we sort of approved that the height variance would be approved, or recommended we approve the height variance, but the two were the front yard setback and also the display parking from the building relating to the street. Is that correct?
Yeah, through Madam Chair to Kevin. Yes, that's correct. In the previous meeting, you guys offered support for the height variance, but did not comment at that time on the setback variance and the variance that's required for parking in the front face of the building. Okay, thank you. And Madam Chair, I'd be happy to start off if nobody else has anything to say.
Well, fancy that, I was going to ask you. So you go right ahead.
Does anybody else have anything for staff?
Didn't think anybody else did. No? Okay, you go ahead, Kevin. Turn on your mic.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ellen, for your presentation. I'm really only going to speak to recommendation number 1, which was the key one that I was addressing at the last meeting. In your letter, Alan, you and also in your presentation, you said the majority of a car dealership business is through the service shop. So does that mean that it's not through the sale of cars, it's really through service?
Obviously, sales of cars is important as well, but the service of cars is a huge component. Okay, Justin is actually, I believe, is the owner here? If he is, he might want to chime in as well.
Yeah, I just have a hard time believing that a car dealership is the majority of a car dealership's business is through service and not through the sale of cars.
Kevin, it is a huge component, and
it's a huge. But you say the majority, and that means that why isn't it just a service dealership here, and you don't sell cars? So that's in your letter, you're making it feel that way, which I disagree with. And I would say the whole rationale of moving the building away from the existing building still isn't flying with me. I would say my office used to be right across the street from the Honda and Mazda car dealerships. They both went through major reconstructions where they tore down the building and built a new building. They put up portables for their offices. And when I look at your site proposal, Alan, and I'm speaking not really so much to you as to the owner of the project.
I am on the call.
Okay, so I would say if you built that building as you're proposing and kept the existing building and you put up portables for the builders to build the project, along with area needed for the materials to build the building, and the workers that need to work on the building, where are you going to park the cars that you need to sell in order to keep business running? As in comparison to knocking down an existing building, building a new building, and having space to park cars.
Alan, would you like me to answer, or?
Yeah, go ahead, please, Justin.
Okay, I just want to circle back to your original comment there that the service department is not as big of an impact as the sales department. The service is definitely the largest draw and the busiest sector within the dealership. We have 20 to 30 appointments per day in our service department, whereas the dealership only sells about 60 to 70 cars a month. So it is significantly different on the traffic analysis that the service department is definitely the busiest sector of a dealership. Tearing down the existing building and putting up portables is not an option to rebuild where we are, because I have no service center. My entire service shop is developed in the back of
the... So sorry for jumping in, Justin, but I would say, how are the other car dealerships like Honda and Mazda able to do it without that, and Nissan is not able to do it?
Honda had a completely different building behind it. They all moved into their used car building, and they had a body shop there that they moved their lifts into. I don't have the luxury to be able to do that.
I think there's opportunities to do things like that. I remember, because I'm born and raised here in Nanaimo, I remember that car dealerships in the past have actually rented space from the Sears building at Rutherford Mall to have showrooms over a short period of time. And there are opportunities there. And I don't believe that you will go out of business if you knock down a building and build a new one over a short period of time. So I just want to say that that isn't flying with me. I think the real reason that the building wants to be sited where it is for the showcase of having automobiles on the front and the street sides on 107th and the highway to showcase your product. And I don't think there's anything anybody could ever say to me that would convince me otherwise. And I look at arguments, well, Country Club parking, Country Club Mall is next door. And sure, there's lots of parking relating to the highway, but I look at the efforts that they've made over the last 20 years to locate buildings up along the highway, shield the parking, and they made a very good effort of that. And I think along highways, it should be encouraged to do that. And also, in the newspaper today, I noticed that the development permit for the parking or for the car dealership at Bowen and the highway has been approved. And in that parking, in that development, they are going to pretty much have zero parking and vehicle along the highway. So everything's going to be contained within the building or behind the building. So I'm just looking at that and I'm saying that the effort needs to be made on this project. I think Nissan needs to step up, and I think the application needs to return. I'm not going to comment on the other recommendations. I just think the application needs to return and meet the zoning requirements relating to the siting of the building, and in particular, I feel the building should be sited on the corner of the highway and 107th, and no parking in front of the building. So that's where I'm at, and I don't need to look at anything else. So.
I do have to say that I'm not sure if you're aware that I'm the one that owns that building that the development permit was just approved on for the corner of Bowen Road, and that is a completely different concept of a more of a luxury brand where there's very few vehicles that would be in that building being able to reconstruct it, and we are not able to build anywhere else on that lot because the lot is so small. We do not have an option to build anywhere but where the existing building is. I am not going to rent out a Sears building to go and put hoists in to have a service center and try to work out of that. It's not an option. And I feel that, you know, the opinion is definitely being weighted in one way because I think we do a very good job. I just built a brand new Mitsubishi dealership that we did a very good job of being accommodating to you guys. And we pay very high taxes to be able to have that there. I think the building that we've designed is incredibly nice for the area, and we don't have to do this. We can leave the building the way that it is, and it's an absolute eyesore for everybody that drives by. And I think it's a great revenue to be able to hire more staff and to have a beautiful building along the side of the highway. At I don't understand how this concept that we're being hung up on the fact that I can't tear down a building and rebuild where it is. It will absolutely sever my business. I do not have anywhere else to put hoists. I have nowhere else to put a service center. I don't have any other options there. So I'm not paying additional rent. I'm not going to add additional cost to this. And I think we're being very fair, and we presented a pretty good plan to you guys to have a use of the space that kind of works for everybody.
Okay, thanks,
And
Justin,
sorry,
for your contribution. And
could-
Kevin. I think we
Marie,
need to
sorry,
kind of get back on track here.
Marie, sorry, could I just make a comment as well? I totally understand where Kevin is coming from. He's been on this one with his opinion since the first time we met on this one, so I wasn't surprised with his comments this time as well. But I totally disagree with you, Kevin, that the only reason why we want to put our building where we have it is because we want to have all these cars at the corner of 107th and the Island Highway. If we had a blank slate, if we were able to remove the car, we would probably have put the building closer to 107th and the Island Highway. So the comment that we only wanted to put the building where we have it right now is the fact that we want to put all these cars at the corner of 107th and Island Highway is totally not true.
Okay. So, okay.
I would just sorry, Madam Chair. I think I have a right to jump in here. I would still disagree with some of those their comments, but all I would say is all the other car dealerships, Honda, Mazda, all of them were able to do it. Nissan should be able to do it too.
Okay. So I think you made your point, and I'll put down as a recommendation that you're basically recommending that the building be moved as per the original recommendation, that it be moved to the corner. And what I'd like to do is see what the rest of the panel has to comment on this project. Now, Hector wasn't part of this discussion last time, so I'm just going to leave you to the end, Hector, if you don't mind, and I'll have Jonathan and Hillary comment on it, and then we'll see what your perspective is on this, because you're coming into it fresh. Okay, so Jonathan, perhaps you could go ahead, please.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so I guess my issue with the building siting is that I think the intent of the development permit guidelines here is to increase the street presence. Moving forward, right now this corner is very more automobile oriented, with the strip mall on the other side and the car dealership here. And I think the intent of the development permit guidelines is to change that so that future development, it has a greater street presence. So I guess my issue with the building sited where it's being proposed is that it's actually a step backwards from the existing dealership in that sense. It's decreasing the street presence from where the building is now. So, and I mean, projects like this only get redeveloped, I don't know how often a dealership gets redeveloped, 20 years, 30 years. If we site the building where it's being proposed, then we're kind of condemning this corner to be this way for another 20, 30 years, not having a street presence there on 107th. So I guess our job as a design panel is to sort of stand up for the design development permit guidelines and what they're trying to achieve. So if the owner is unable, if it's deemed that it's impossible to put a building on the street, you need to propose some other way to increase the street presence. So the way you would interface with 107th, something else needs to be put along there to activate the street a bit more. I don't know. There's different ways that can be done with, I don't know, public art or other structures, but yeah, I think sort of asking for such a huge variance that doesn't comply with the development permit needs to be justified. You need to show that you're meeting the intent of that development permit guideline in another way with other building. So, and I don't see that here. So
we do go ahead and leave it the way that it is. The city has proposed that they are wanting to take 4,500 square feet of my lot and use it for bike lanes, sidewalks, and curb appeal. So if we do go ahead with this development that in the way that it's looking, then you guys have proposed to take 4,550 square feet of my lot away from me to make it so that it's more user friendly and has more curb appeal, right?
Excuse me, Justin, I don't recall that being in the proposal or anything. So, and appreciate you to go through the chair if you're wanting to make a comment.
Okay, sorry about that.
Jonathan, are you finished your comments?
So that's my comment for the building. Some of the other things, I'll just scroll down to my notes here. Yeah, so yeah, I think there was a recommendation from the previous meeting about outdoor amenity area. Now that there's that new pedestrian connection, I think somewhere along that pedestrian route, some sort of outdoor amenity area could be incorporated at the surface, whether that's like a table and some chairs outdoor for like staff to eat their lunch at, just some outdoor space. I think that's important for the mental health of staff to have outdoor. There's no parks around here for people to go to at lunchtime. As far as landscape design comments, I think our invasive species comment last time around was in regards to the Portuguese laurel, the Prunus lusitanica, which is still on the plant list. So I believe that species is considered invasive by City of Nanaimo. So I would recommend replacing that species with something else. As far as the tree species proposed, I would recommend swapping one of them for a species that has more winter interest. They're all deciduous right now, so will be kind of barren during the winter months. The addition of concrete surfacing in some of the parking areas instead of asphalt is an improvement, so that's good to see, but I think the staff notes mentioned something about textured paving, and I think it's just shown as broom finished concrete, which is not textured paving, so just I'm assuming it's just the broom finished concrete. Maybe incorporate like a saw cut pattern into at least the ones that are on the pedestrian walkway, just to add more visual interest there. Yeah, those are my recommendations. Other than that, the other landscape improvements look good to me.
Just a comment, Portuguese laurels were taken out.
I saw the plant list in the, they were still listed on the plant list in the drawing package I reviewed.
So you might want to check your listing then. Okay, great. So that's it, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Hillary?
Thank you. Yeah, I think the changes to the tree species look good. The enhanced corners sound nice. I think the changes look somewhat more aesthetically pleasing. The recommendation around solar panels and the applicant saying that doesn't seem like they're feasible at this time. I don't know why that wouldn't be. It's not that hard. And I'd be curious to know if there's an actual genuine interest in doing that in the future. We're trying to move towards a more sustainable future here. So we're saying, yes, you can build a giant new car lot, but some of the trade-offs would be some energy efficiency, which would be nice to see in a commitment to more sustainable energy sources. Yeah, that's my comments. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Hillary. And Hector, you can go ahead now. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks to the architect and the owners for presenting this project. In terms of the location of the building, which seems to be the bigger fish, I don't have an issue with it. I think it doesn't make a big difference. I think the intent of the bylaw is to have for mixed-use buildings. If this was a mixed-use building, then I will see the concerns of having the building closer to the corner. But realistically, this is a car dealership, and I don't think that applies to these kind of buildings. I'm not a huge fan of the cars looking at all the parking area on the Island Highway. To be honest, it will I'm interested to hear the owner's perspective on that. I mean, every time I drive in front of that car dealership, I can barely see the cars, so I don't see even what's the point of putting the cars in that area or that many amount of cars. I think it's interesting, the idea of having an outdoor space for clients and people working there. I think they can easily remove 2 or 3 parking spots to put that area. I think it's great. I mean, if you're waiting for your car on an oil change and it's a sunny day, well, it's great, right? You can go and see it and enjoy a bit of the landscape or the air. So I think it's something that you guys need to consider. But as an overall, I think the project is fine. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Hector. Okay, so yes, I was present at the last meeting, and I have to say I do appreciate the efforts you've made on the landscaping and the parking lot. That's some improvement there. I really also appreciate the effort to sort of add more to the Victoria Avenue stretch along there to buffer the dealership from the residents, because I think this is a sort of a residential street and it's facing a commercial business right across the street. So I think that will be really appreciated. Some lawn and more higher plants, that kind of thing. I would concur with Jonathan on his idea that more trees that have foliage during the winter. So again, to help maintain that sort of buffer, visible buffer between the residents and the dealership. But that's being said, I think I also have to agree with Jonathan. I thought he put it very well in terms of meeting the guidelines along that corner. You're asking for a big variance to allow for more parking, to keep your parking up front. In fact, I looked at your corner. You've done the little design, the circles on the corner, but those are meant to put another car on the corner. And so, again, I think we come back to Kevin's point about, turning this into a car display area, which of course is what your business is. So it's how do we find a way to have both things work? And I have a bit of a problem with you asking for a variance to push the car display further along than when you're already also asking not to have the building on that corner. So I think we're in a bit of a quandary here. I have a hard time approving this without the building on the corner. I'd rather see the building on 107th and the highway as well, and your cars in behind. But I'm wondering if there's a bit of a compromise we could have and not have the parking variance in the front yard setback variance, and you put your building at the back, but you don't have that variance, and then you don't have the cars quite so visible from the road, and build up the landscaping. Also, I'd like to see something maybe on the corner instead of a car displayed there, some sort of pergola walkway through there, something that sort of distracts from the fact that there's a parking lot right there. And I'd be willing to approve it if there was those kinds of amendments made, considering your logistics of trying to build on this site as a kind of compromise. But as it is, I think you'd have to come back with those plans so we can see what you would propose. So I'm not sure if hope that makes some sense, but I'm sort of, what I'm suggesting is that you go ahead and build it where you want the building, but then we don't give you the variances that you want, and you do more to sort of hide the parking on that corner, and provide something else on the corner of 107th and the highway, such as, like I say, a little seating area, pergola, something like that, and not a car on that corner. So that would be my suggestion. So we'll see where the group here. Does anybody else from the panel want to comment on that idea? Kevin or Hector, you're nodding a little bit there.
No, yeah, I think that's a really good compromise. I think that's exactly what I was going with my comment. So I support that idea.
Kevin, how would you feel about that?
As much as I like the direction you're going, Madam Chair, I think anything that could be proposed and developed that is in a minor structure capacity 2 or 3 years from now could be torn down, and they could do whatever they want with it. So I really feel that in order to achieve the city's bylaws and the design guidelines, a major structural component needs to be there. And in my opinion, a major structural component would be the main building be in that corner. And you can put a pergola there, and 2 years down the road you can tear it down, and you can do whatever you want there. You can put a car up on a jack and do whatever you want there. So as much as I would like to think that would work, I just don't see it happening. So I wouldn't support that.
Could I ask, I'd like to ask city staff, Peyton, is there some way we can, like, I guess, insist that no cars be displayed on that corner?
Yeah, through the chair, thank you, Kevin, for your comments. It is a requested variance, and we had indicated previously in a comprehensive letter to the applicant that that we could support a variance to the front yard setback, provided that some of the surface parking was visually broken up, and we also indicated that support for the front yard setback variance could potentially be supported, provided that some architectural features and or the building be emphasized along the highway.
So you've basically already asked for that, either or. You've asked for the building to be either set at the highway or some sort of architectural presence there, other than parking.
Yes, that's correct.
Display. Yeah.
But the only way to guarantee that something would be maintained on that corner would be through a restrictive covenant. Is that correct, Peyton? On that corner, if you're going to say, oh, we're going to dedicate, get a surveyor in and dedicate these distances, that this has to be dedicated to architectural features that meet the city guidelines through a restrictive covenant. That's only the only way that a city could really enforce it down the road.
Through the chair to Kevin, if the architectural features were brought to the front of the highway, as you guys are requesting, that would be registered through the development permit, and that development permit is registered on title. So if they come in for a building permit, at that point they would have to comply with that development permit. If they're proposing any changes at that time, then we would require a new development permit at that time.
Yes, but there's no restriction afterwards that can be taken down or changed. Like if there are architectural features on the corner and then 2 years from now they decide to take it down, there's nothing restricting them from taking it down.
Through the chair to Kevin, at that point they would not be in substantial compliance with the development permit, because they would be directly affecting the form and character portions of that development permit. Should that occur, at that point we would have to contact the property owner and work with the plan to come up with a plan on how they could come back into compliance with the development permit.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we, well, probably should look at our recommendations first here. We do have a little list of them, and then maybe we can talk about a motion. So Kevin, you're still recommending either site the building on the corner of the highway at 107th. And I personally like to change that, site the building on the corner of the highway at 107th, or add a distinct architectural feature in that corner, something to that effect, so that it's back to what the city's already asked them to do, which we're still not getting in these plans and in this design. So that would be my suggestion. Let's just set that one aside and look at the other suggestions. There was add an outdoor amenity or seating area on the site, review plant list, remove any invasive plant species, add trees that have more winter foliage, consider texturing the concrete surfaces on the parking area, and demonstrate some commitment to, or consider some commitment to energy efficient options in the building. So do those recommendations, other than the first one, sound okay to everybody? Did I miss anything? No. Okay. So it's the first one that's contentious here. And I would like to, again, suggest that we have site the building on the corner of the highway and 107th, or consider an architectural feature on this corner that would highlight and emphasize the corner.
Well, I'll just jump in there because what are you going to label as an architectural feature? Is it just like a pergola? What is it going to be? Like the applicant really needs to know that it's going to need to be a fairly major architectural feature. It's not going to be a sign.
Maybe it's not architectural feature. You need something. It could be a garden. It could be a little. It could be a seating area. I would like to see actually, I should also add, I'd like to see the landscape enhanced along Terminal and 107th as well, in addition. So that the emphasis is on the landscape and not on the car display.
Yeah, and I would just say that that's all and good, but we all know what happens to landscape concepts, and Jonathan can speak on that when it comes to developments and how their landscape concepts sometimes are maintained or lack of maintenance. And I just want something much more finite. So the way it is right now, I would be voting against that motion. Thank you.
Well, I think again, think of our objective here is to just make suggestions, comment on the form and character, and make suggestions for that. We can ask the applicant to come back with another plan here that either or move the building or deal with that corner, and it kind of puts it back in their court to address what the city had already asked them to do before, and find something suitable that suits the neighborhood and suits the character.
Yeah, I would just add, Madam Chair, sorry for interrupting, is in the staff comments, it was recommended by staff that the building conform to the variances, including the siding and the display parking as well. So it is noted that staff would like the building to be sited into a corner without display parking.
The guidelines, you mean, not the variances?
Yes. But actually, I think there's variances there too.
Well, they're requesting variances to those guidelines, and I think that's kind of our sticking point here. So, I think we go back to that issue, and it's really the architect's job, not our job, to sort of rethink their project and figure out how they're supposed to handle it. So I think we can vote on that they go back again and look at how they can either how they can conform to those guidelines about either reciting the building or enhancing that corner of Terminal Avenue and 107th in some way. That's architectural.
Well, I'll jump in, Madam Chair, with a motion, if you'll let me.
Okay.
Because I believe there are 4 voting members. Is that correct?
There's only 4 today.
Councillor Eastmere doesn't vote, so it's
right.
Hector, Jonathan, you, and myself.
Right.
So I would start then. It can get defeated or whatever. I would make a motion that the applicant return with a new proposal with the building sited into the corner of the Island Highway and 107th, and meet the city's bylaws and design guidelines, and also meets the recommendations of the landscape comments and other comments made. I'll make that my motion if I can get a seconder.
Does anybody want to second that? Jonathan, Hector? Not hearing a response here. I have a little problem too with the definite move the building. I think we could make a recommendation that they conform to the city guidelines, find a way to conform to either by citing the building or, as the staff phrased it in their comments. I think again leaves it open, but they need to do a lot more. If they're not going to move the building, they need to do a lot more.
Okay, since I haven't got a seconder, I would suggest another motion that the applicant return with a proposal that meets the city's bylaws and design guidelines, and also the recommendations put forth by the panel tonight.
Okay, so the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, four other recommendations besides that. Okay, that works for me. Does anybody? Jonathan, Hector? Jonathan will second it. Okay, and all in favor then? Okay, so that will be it. Okay, so thanks for coming in, Alan, and sorry we couldn't come up with a better solution than that, but that's where we're sitting at today. So
Okay, no, I understand. We'll have to talk to the client, determine where we proceed from here. Thank you.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Okay, we've got a second application today on for property on Fraser Street, and again, Peyton Carter will present. Go ahead, Peyton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. DP 1309 is a proposed development for a one-story automotive leasing sales service and office building with a gross floor area of 96 square meters. The subject property is zoned Wallace DT3 and is designated as primary urban center downtown in the city plan. The subject property is located in downtown Nanaimo between the old city quarter at the intersection of Wentworth Street and Fraser Street, with the rear portion of the lot sloping upwards towards Wallace Street. The proposed property falls within Development Permit Area 8, and the General Development Permit Area guidelines apply to this development. There is a single variance proposed here to increase the maximum allowable number of vehicles on display for sale or rental from 4 to 11. Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions you all have after the applicant has presented.
Great. Okay, and panel members, do any of you have questions of staff? No? Okay, the applicant can go ahead. And is it Ian, are you presenting this evening? Yeah, turn your mic on.
Thank you. I almost forgot that I was totally muted.
And you can share your screen.
Yes. I'd like to introduce Bill Grace, who's got his mic off, but he's in a kind of a ghosty kind of appearance there. I'm not sure why. I think it's his laptop. Who represents the actual client. So I'm not sure where to start, but I do have a presentation, which is PowerPoint. So maybe we could start there. So if it's okay for me to share my screen, then we can. Go ahead. Thank you. Oops, not the right. There we go. It'll be in the form of a slideshow, which I can start right away. So basically, the building is a very tiny building. Let's get this. And I'm sure you've all read the rationale, the design rationale that I had submitted to the planning department. But as you can see, it's in the heart of downtown, but it is separated from the core of downtown by the Island Highway, and it's located in an area where there are very small lots. And of course, quite a severe grade difference. If we look at the existing zoning in the area, it's all DT3. Across the road, there's some DT5, etc. So we are situated amongst a certain type of building. When we look at the aerial photograph, it shows the small lot. It's highlighted in a red color. All the buildings, a lot of individual buildings on separate lots, and nothing has started to be amalgamated to form large developments, except the lot that you can see across the road from Wallace Street, which is being constructed right now. The BC Tel site, as you can see, is a large open space. So we can jump into some of the site photographs. This is looking looking south, traveling along the Island Highway, you will see Fraser Street, which is a little tiny side street, and the site is highlighted in this area here. It's a very large building on the corner of Bastion and what's it called? Wallace Street, which is a very blank wall and concrete wall, very severe. Offices, of course, and below at the very bottom of the building, there's some squash courts. The rest of the site, as we walk through, it's mainly car oriented in terms of car sales and car repairs, etc. There's a restaurant just on this corner here. The site is there. There's an existing building here, which is a Volvo repair and not quite a dealership, but a repair shop. So it's the site is quite small, and it's surrounded by a very steep road on one side, which creates a barrier to the site. We cannot really access the site properly from there. At the back of the site, the site goes up quite steeply at the back. There you can see it looking in the opposite direction where the site is located. So it's in the middle of quite a jumble of buildings that all need to be upgraded and repaired, etc. They've all served their time, but the length of time that we've seen those buildings operate, they're at the end of their lives, actually. So I can see a lot of new buildings being generated in the years to come. This is the actual site. It's fairly flat, as we can see, but that's the gradient of Wentworth Street as it goes up, and we have a large slope at the back, this is all part of the site. All of this area here with some large trees. A few of them are maples. I think that they're mostly all maples actually on the site. This is where we do intend to put a wall to stop, to tidy it up and to stop any further degradation of the slope. But I'll get to that in a minute. If we're standing on the site, which is the corner of my right-hand side here of the screen, you can see looking down Wentworth Street, Island Highway is terminal avenues across there, and all of these buildings are in not great condition. There's some sort of mobile office or something there on the corner, but that's an auto repair shop, and there's an auto sales shop, etc. So we're in the midst of that type of thing. So we can jump into the architectural design. As you can see, the site is quite small. The site is only just about 800 square meters, 808 square meters, and the building is very tiny. Now, the reason for that is that the owners of the building, of this lot here, as you can see, this large lot here, the outline, it's basically, the intent is to hold on to the property until such time as other adjacent lots become available. The initial discussion with the city was, can we put a very tiny little building, even a mobile building that can just be for maintaining the site while we are waiting for it. So the building, in fact, is an interim building. So the main use of the building at the moment is to store some cars and to rent and maybe sell a couple or so of used cars. Now, there was a tenant that wanted to use the building for just that purpose. And because this process has taken so long, we have in fact lost the tenant, but we are continuing with the building so that we might find another tenant, or at least we will tidy up the corner of that site and be ready to do something a bit later on when we acquire any additional sites. So this is the building. It's very small. The actual building is only 73 square meters. There's a little office in it. There's a staff room, a washroom, and a space that we can put a car in there and clean it up or do what we have. It's not a repair garage by any means. It is just a space for cleaning up the odd vehicle so it's out of the weather while they're doing that. These are the elevations of the building. Because the building is so small, we tried to emphasize its what you call presence on the corner. So we were trying to do some strange little things by making the building look a lot bigger than it really is. So this area, for instance, the front of the building here, we've extended a piece of the fascia across and dropped it on the other side of the site. So the building looks like it's occupying the whole site on the front elevation, which of course it's not. It's just a guise to just have a bit more presence. And these are some of the elevations. This is the Fraser Street side of the building here. This is the Wentworth side. And this is the side of the building that is actually inside the lot, where you can see an office area and then the garage for the cars, for a car to be worked on, cleaned up. Again, this is what, when you look from the building out to the side, this is what you see. It's very simple. We have some suggested materials that we are using to emphasize the corner. This was one of the comments that came back when we had an initial meeting, that they wanted us to move the building closer to the corner and try to emphasize or make the corner a little bit more prominent. So we selected some materials to clad the building with, and this is a special material. It's called Linart. It's a Linart cladding by A3 Design, and the actual metal cladding allows us to insert lighting, as you can see in this little picture here, in a random fashion on the corner of the building here, just to highlight the corner. And the same company makes another type of cladding to match, but it's a horizontal version. From the comments, of course, we intended to have metal cladding, as you can see here. And on one side of the building, we have some stucco panels just to hide what's going on behind it. There's a staff room on one side and a washroom and the garage on that portion of the building. So if you look at some of the perspectives, this is kind of what the building looks like. Very, very simple. We didn't want to get too expensive. As it is, it's going to be a very expensive little, very small little building. But I think it deserves some treatment on the corner. The materials are very simple. We have not used more than, well, I think just 2 materials basically, just to keep it very simple. We're still trying to maintain some sort of integrity in the design without going totally overboard. This is the slope that goes up from the site, as you can see here, and this is the slope of Wentworth Street. This is basically what it looks like. Originally, we had the building further towards the back, and then through our initial discussions with the city, we brought it forward to the corner just to bring the building to meet the guidelines, etc. The original the zoning on the building allows us to put quite a large building on that site, but the clients are not ready to do that yet. I was doing some rough calculations, and actually we can in fact build something in the order of 26,000 square feet on that site, which equates to a 4-story building, each floor being roughly 6,500 square feet. And if we were to put residential on those buildings, we would wind up with somewhere around about 18 to 24 units or more. They'd all be either 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms, and some offices on the lower floor, and we'd wind up with about 60 cars we'd have to satisfy on that lot, which is kind of a little bit difficult. But the whole intent is that this building is an interim building. It is not intended to be the final building on the site. There it is. You see, it's just a tiny little building. The landscaping, again, is quite simple. We have some large trees, and we're proposing to put those trees on the city's property, inside that area. That whole site, it's a bit awkward because there are no actual firm plans of how that street is going to be developed. It is supposed to be one of the main connectors to downtown, but because of its steepness, the engineering department wasn't sure how they would deal with it. We've actually shown a bump out on the corner, but we are kind of jumping the gun here because we don't really know, and we haven't had any feedback from the city in that area yet. So we're hoping to put these two large trees on the site. We have a suggested plant list, but we haven't made the actual selections yet. All of the trees on the slope will be kept, and the entire slope will be hydro-seeded with wild grasses, flowering grasses as well. So we've done a lot of work on the corner here, trying to clean up the site and make it stand out a lot more from the surrounding buildings and the dilapidated state of the corners. And because a lot of these buildings are not defined, there's no sidewalks, there's no area where pedestrians actually, you can't see your way to actually walking in the area yet. Anyway, that's my quick blurb about the building. So I'm open to some questions. We did get back all of the staff design comments, and most of these we will certainly address because none of them are at odds with what the building and the intent of the building is. So we don't really have any difficulty with any of those comments at all. And we would probably come back or resubmit the drawings that shows that we've considered all of these points. There is nothing in that list that we would object to. So if there are any questions, we'd be happy to.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen and then I can see.
Oh, okay, right. Yes.
Thanks very much.
How do we do that?
There should be a button down at the
yeah,
the
it
top.
says
I think it says should be somewhere there.
you are sharing. Okay, stop share. Right. Correct. Okay.
Oh, we've got Ken with us now. Sorry, did I miss you, Ken, earlier or not? Were you with us in the last discussion? You don't have your mic on, so I can't hear you.
Sorry, I just had something come up and I had to deal with.
Okay, so you didn't. I thought I was thinking I might have missed you when we had our last presentation, but anyway, okay. So yeah, anybody got questions of staff? Hillary, yes.
Sorry, just for clarity, so you said that there's no tenant for this building, so you're building it, but you don't know who's actually going to use it.
Well, we hope that we will get a very similar tenant, or maybe the very first tenant that was supposed to go in there will actually return to the site. It's, what can I say?
The housing sounded so interesting that there'd be such a walkable place and the prime place to ask for a parking variance because you can walk to the grocery store and it's right by downtown.
Yes, I totally.
That's a really appealing one.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's not that walkable actually.
It is. I live in that neighborhood. It's very walkable. That's my mechanic is right next door. I walk all through that area. It's very walkable.
Yeah. Well, I hope you don't walk with a stroller or with a cane or anything like that, because it won't be very easy. Or when it's snowing, it's not that great going up Wentworth.
Yeah, don't take Wentworth. You take
Yeah, I
Fraser
know.
there. Good workout, but yeah, it's a straight shot to downtown from with no hills.
Yeah. Well, except we do have a very big barrier, which is the Island Highway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that terminal trench develops now with the new rules around, not needing to do the groundwater studies, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody got questions of staff? I should have asked that now and not before. Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah, question for staff. Does the development permit process require like submitting a detailed landscape or a planting plan? Because I guess in this one, it's just more of a candidate species list, and like I don't know where any of these plants are actually going. It's just hard for me to comment on that.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to Jonathan, yes. A detailed landscape plan is going to be required showing where those proposed plantings are going to be located. If it was not included in the package, I apologize. This is not my file, so I'm not super familiar.
There's a plan there, there's just symbols that don't say what species is going where.
Okay, so like a legend is what you're asking about.
Oh, it's more like it doesn't. This plant symbols aren't labeled with species, so like, it's like there could be 5 different species as a symbol. Like it's a bit too general to really comment on from my perspective.
Okay. Yeah, through the chair, definitely that's something we can ask for in the comprehensive letter. Is a more detailed landscape plan showing which symbols are allocated to which species. Of course, we can ask for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something to the chair, to Jonathan or whoever? On the drawing, it does have some symbols that represent large, small, medium trees and so on, and different sizes of shrubs as well as ground cover. And the landscape architect did provide a palette of trees or of species that we would pick from to use when we get to that detailed stage. So it's not like the trees haven't been considered, it's just that we didn't designate a specific tree in a specific location, that's all.
Yeah, so I see that that's provided, but like I need to know what trees going where to comment on it, and I think that should be required in a development permit application.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. Okay, well, it's no other questions for staff then. Hector, go ahead.
Just quick question for staff. Is there any plans for Fraser Street? I know like Ian mentioned that there's apparently not like a concrete plan, but is that correct?
Through the chair to Hector, I cannot comment at this time on any road plans for Fraser Street. That would be something that would come from our engineering department. But I can get that information, and it would be in a comprehensive letter back to the applicant. So if there's any additional roadworks that are needing to be addressed through frontage works and services as a result of the application, something like the building siting might need to be reconsidered to accommodate for that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hector, is that answer for you?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yep.
Yeah, it seems rather odd then that we're looking at this proposal with, it seems like a number of things missing here. But we can comment on the form and character of building while we're at it, I guess. Perhaps Hector, you'd like to start?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. No, I think I agree with the comments from staff. I will support to move forward with this proposal with the staff comments. It's so funny because it's very similar to the previous application, just in a tiny scale, with some of the same issues, with some of the kind of similar comments, just completely different scale. But yeah, that will be my comment. I think in terms of massing and what is like, I really agree that there needs to be like some pedestrian access into the building. But yeah, that's my comment. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Kevin, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ian. Great to see you again.
Yeah. Been a while. Been a while.
It's been. Miss you here on the panel. Miss you here on the panel. But very nice proposal. Sort of jumping in a little bit about Councillor Eastmer's comments. Obviously, it would be great if this was a multi-story mixed-use building, which obviously is what is recommended amongst the urban design guides and everything. That said, however, I think what you've done is very nice. If you're calling this a temporary building, I think you've done a wonderful job. I don't really have any issues. I like how you cited the building into the corner and gone along with recommendations for that. Obviously, it is what it's going to be. A question would be, is this building going to be, and this might not be a question you can answer, but maybe it's for your client, is this a building that will be constructed regardless of a proposed tenant?
I can answer that. Yes, we're going ahead with it. There's no two ways about it.
Okay.
I think the site needs to be cleaned up. The site needs to be more presentable, and I think that will encourage and trigger other development or cleanups in that little enclave of buildings.
Exactly, and that's my hope. I grew up 4 blocks up Wentworth Street in my entire childhood, so I'm very familiar with this site. And all along, we're sort of waiting for along this terminal corridor a champion to come along and start something along this corridor, so that everything will kind of just steamroll after that. And I'm not sure if this will be the project that will steamroll it, but hopefully it'll at least spark some interest. So I really appreciate your client's vision, and at some point in time, if they decide to knock it down and put up a 4-story building, fantastic. So my only other question is, has the city arborist looked at the trees along the bank there? Because obviously you're not going to be disturbing ground.
Yeah.
But has the city looked at some of those trees? Look kind of, the maples look kind of iffy. Have they looked at it?
I can't remember. I have a feeling they did initially, but I certainly didn't get a specific report back from the city arborist. But obviously we will do that. We went through an extensive amount of study with our geotechnical people who, studied the slope and so on and made recommendations for us. So we're fully aware of what's going on the slope, and we don't want to disturb it, and we don't want to change the structure of it in any way at all, because we know that we could be opening up a can of worms. That slope supports the site above, right on the corner, and there's some large city pipes on the flat surface in the property above us, and it's on a little easement. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on in that area that we don't want to mess with right now. So we wouldn't want to start, excavating the bank and creating, a larger footprint right now at all without, some major engineering happening. And, I'm not sure that even if we were to put a large building on there, I don't think it'd probably interfere with the bank, actually.
Yeah, so the retaining walls you're proposing, are they to, the use is to bring fill in to fill the ground, or are you cutting away existing
Yeah,
ground?
no, we're not cutting away anything. We're not disturbing the toe of the slope, as
Okay.
it were. So we're not encouraging any, sloughing or anything like that. We're putting a short wall, maybe 2 blocks high, and that was supposed to be in my package of my the civil drawing, but it obviously got omitted. And there was a comment in here about selecting a nicer lock block, which we do intend to. We were not looking at putting regular lock blocks. The owner is an avid gardener, and will do anything to plant on every single square inch of this property. I can assure you that's what's going to happen. So the lock blocks form a way of cleaning up the toe of the slope, the edge of it. We will fill behind the lock blocks to create some extra flat area to actually support any further erosion or anything like that. And that will be all planted and landscaped. And of course, the whole site will be hydro-seeded.
Okay. And the approximate height of about 4 feet?
Yes, it's going to be below the requirement to have any specific engineering to it. It's going to be 1.2 meters.
And possible cascading plants coming down over the top of it?
Yes, that's exactly what we're proposing. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. That's all I have to say, Ian. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah.
Jonathan, would you like to comment on what you can?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I agree with all the city comments. There was a comment about reducing the amount of decorative river rock and considering a more formal landscape edge along the sidewalk. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, more planting in there in place of the river rock. I noticed the plan shows a rain garden. I am curious, like, what the catchment area is for that rain garden. Is it supposed to be managing like water from the roof or from the parking lot? That's kind of important to know if a rain garden is appropriate there. Yeah, hard to comment on the rain garden without knowing what it's supposed to be managing. Let's see. Yeah, so for the retaining wall, I agree. Yeah, a textured block should be used there. It's nice to have like in a development permit application to have like a reference photo of what the wall might look like, just to.
Sorry, a reference photo of?
Just like of what the wall would look like could be from another project, just to show like the texture of the wall. It's a good way, easy way to do it, having a reference.
Yeah, it's just that I can't hear you very well because it's coming across a little bit broken. Your voice.
Yeah, so I agree with the city comment about a textured retaining wall, and
yeah,
it is useful to have like a reference photo in the application just to show what that would look like. And yeah, I agree, having like vines cascading over the wall is a good way to soften up the wall, the appearance of the wall. The hydro-seeded slope. It would be good to know a bit more about the species mix on that. I guess it would probably need to be shade tolerant since there's existing trees there. A lot of grasses need sun, which I think grasses were mentioned in the call out there. For the planting plan, yeah, so I'll provide some general comments, but it's hard without knowing what species is going where. But yeah, like vine maples, that's a low branching species, so probably shouldn't go right next to the sidewalk. And it's more of a forest species. so it might not be appropriate next to a walkway, just due to its structure. Yeah, the candidate plant list has a lot of species on it, so there's not that many planting areas on the site, so I assume it would probably be reduced quite a bit in the actual plan, but it's hard to comment without that being provided. And so yeah, that's my comments on the landscape. I agree with the city comment about pedestrian access. Maybe that could be like beside the driveway, just a different textured hardscape to sort of signify what's the pedestrian route versus what's the car route. The fencing, yeah, the aluminum picket fencing is good. Hopefully it's not chain link, which I think was mentioned.
No, it's not chain link. There's chain link presently, but in our design rationale, we did mention that it will be a proper steel picket fence, roughly of the. I mean, it's pretty generic, the photo that we have, but it's pretty standard.
Yeah. And I like the building design and all that. I think it does a good job of, for like a more car-oriented business, it does a good job of activating the street and reducing the negative impact of like the appearance of a big parking lot. So I think, yeah, the building is really well done. It'd just be good to have more clear detail on the plans. That's all.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, I'll end my comments there.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. Hillary?
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is an improvement on the empty gravel lot that's there. And I think in terms of ultimate highest and best use for the site, I think it's good that you're kind of thinking of it as an interim building. But yeah, it looks nice for what it is right now, and I hope you can find a tenant for it that will be able to use it with the car orientation it's been designed for. But yeah, looking forward to working on some more housing density downtown where it's, you know, pretty walkable and close to all the amenities. But for this being what it is, I think you've done a nice job, and I agree with all the comments that have been shared. Thank you.
Great,
Thank
thanks, Hillary. Ken, want to go ahead?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ian. It's a nice little proposal, and I really like the design. In fact, it reminded me of a design project you would get in second and third year design. It's in school, these little projects like this, and I think the way you've masked it and treated the elevations with solids, I don't think you need the windows. At least the staff comment about windows in Wentworth, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's nice that you have glass and solid panels there. And I don't think you want to break it up, that solid panel, with adding more glazing in that panel. Other than that, as a temporary building, I think it's a nice design, and I really hope it goes ahead and it'll be a nice little addition to that part of the city. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Ian. Great little project. I really like the building. I think it's going to set a bar in that neighborhood. You're challenged with a sort of odd location. That Terminal Trench is just such a unusual place. You've got all these industrial things, and yes, maybe you could build housing there, but you're going to plunk, an apartment down in the middle of these automotive dealerships, and then in an area that's going to be really transitional. Hopefully, it's going to be changing over, in the next 10 years or so. I'd love to see it. I've always wanted to see that whole area change. So, but what I like about your building is that even though it's temporary, you're setting a design bar that's going to really make that, highlight that corner, and like you say, maybe inspire some of the other building owners along there to do some work. I've noticed in the last few years some of the buildings being renovated on the outsides and so on, and it's really helped. And this will be a great addition. And I like your siting on the corner. I think you've done a really great job of putting all the sort of working aspects of whatever business goes in there, in behind and sort of hidden away, and just emphasize the building. And there's some really beautiful features about it. So thanks for that. So I have nothing else to add in terms of recommendations that haven't already been said. So we'll leave it at that.
Can I just mention one little point?
Yeah.
The comment about putting windows in that area on Wentworth, it's a little bit tricky because we already have one large window in the staff room, and the only other room is the washroom, and I'm not sure that we're ready to put a huge window in the washroom. And we were trying to retain and keep some simplicity in the building, where we have a large solid and a void, and a solid and a void, and that's exactly your comments, Cayenne, I believe is your name, which is what we were aiming for, just to maintain the a sort of refined kind of dignity to a small building, So.
Well, that was actually one of the staff comments.
Yes.
I didn't agree with. I think your building's just right the way it is. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in terms of recommendations, then I'm just not sure. Are we prepared to sort of go ahead and vote on this, or do we want to see more detailed landscape plans? I just feel like there's some things missing here. What's the consensus on that, or do we want to go ahead and just add that as a recommendation that they provide some more detailed landscape plans for them before it goes to the next stage? Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, I would, unless Jonathan disagrees, I think all of those recommendations regarding the landscape and detailed drawings could be dealt with through staff, unless Jonathan feels he needs to see the detailed planting information. But in the past, we've done it where anything like this was done through the applicant dealing with the city staff. And like what I said, unless Jonathan wants to see it come back, I would say we just deal with it through staff.
Jonathan, what's your thoughts?
I don't necessarily want to hold up the process because of that, but I think, I don't know, like I've prepared a lot of development permit applications as a landscape architect, and we always included planting plan with specific species on symbols. Each symbol, like as someone reviewing it now, it's hard to make comments when that detail is not provided. So like, I don't know, I think it's hard for me to do my job on the panel without that information. So, and I think in the future, like applicants shouldn't come to me unless that's included. I don't know, that's my opinion. But yeah, I don't want to necessarily hold up the process on this one because of that. I just think like in the future that should be required in the application package.
Yeah, I'd agree. That's something that needs to be, but I don't know if it's really this particular project that we want to make a lesson of, but Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I have no problem if Jonathan feels in any way uncomfortable with it, that it's a very simple process just for the applicant to submit to city staff, and we can put it first on the agenda for the next meeting if he feels he would really like to see that. So that's an option too. We've done that in the past as well.
Okay. So Jonathan, your call. Would you like them to come back at least with the landscape plan to another meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to see that. And I think, yeah, I guess if it can come back in like 2 weeks, then hopefully that's not too onerous of a delay for the applicant.
Okay, so then I'll just look at the recommendations we have. So indicate the pedestrian access to the site, add texture block to the retaining wall, add trailing plants over the wall, And I don't know, is there any other, and then provide a detailed landscape plan that indicates the plant species of the plant and the retaining wall treatment. We might be able to put that all in one. So those are, that's what I've taken note on in terms of recommendations. Were there any others? Everybody happy with those? Okay, so we'll make those 4 recommendations and request that the applicant come back. So somebody want to make a motion to that effect? Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'll make the motion, but make sure that it's clear that the applicant, that we accept the application as presented,
right,
with those recommendations, and that the applicant return with the revised landscape concept.
Yeah, that sounds good. Do we have a seconder for that? Jonathan? And all in favor? Okay. So it looks like you'll have to come back and see us again, Ian.
Sure.
We enjoy your company.
Yes, thank you. Just to let you know, we have no objections at all to what you're proposing, and we will address all of those items on the letter and in your recommendations, and we'd be happy to return. Again, you know, it's a simple building, and we want to see it happen in the right way, and we don't mind being used as an example for the neighborhood in that area.
Great.
And a comment to Councillor Hillary, we have several large-scale housing projects that will be showing up to the panel shortly. 2 large buildings are happening in Robbins Gardens that will add at least over about 120 to 150 units in that area, and that's very walkable to downtown. So things are happening. And then there was also another project that we're looking at. We're almost at the point of almost at DP, but not quite, for another project on Island Highway across the road from where the missing flag is, Tom Harris, where we will have at least 65 to 70 residential units on a site next door to the new building that's just been completed. So there are people going to be living in these areas soon.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we've got lots of construction in town right now, so
yeah,
lots coming up. Anyway, yeah, so you will just have to come back with the landscape plan. You don't have to do a full presentation. Just show us the landscape plan again.
Sure.
That would be
Okay.
it. Okay. So great.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Okay.
Thank you.
We have one other item on our agenda this evening. I'm going to be away on October 12th, so we need somebody to take over as chair for that meeting. Unfortunately, Angela's not here, so we can't twist her arm. Somebody want to volunteer? I think it's a little unfair to ask Jonathan and Hector. They're really new. Ken or Kevin?
I think Kevin would be a good choice. He's been a chair before.
Well, I know. He's always gotten stuck with it, poor guy. Ken, you got your Kevin, you got your mic
But
on.
I've been a real proponent now of everybody taking a shot at chair, and I think I would do it, but I really think it teaches people a lot about the process and dealing with the applicants, and I would nominate Jonathan. I think he's got what it takes to do it, and unless it's some major applications where there's 3 or 4 applications or something, I think Jonathan has the ability to take that, or can as well. So I would nominate Jonathan myself if he wants to do it. I would definitely think he has the ability to do it.
Yeah, I could do it. I might just need someone from city staff to meet with me ahead of time to teach me all the procedures and formalities, because I'm still kind of new.
I'll send you my cheat sheet if you like.
Okay.
That's what I did.
Thanks, Jonathan.
My script. Okay, so I can share that with you and help you out with that. Yeah, I got thrown into, so I mean, we all get thrown in. But it is good to have a few people online that can take over once in a while. So anyway, shall we have a quick vote? We have Kevin's making a motion that Jonathan be the chair for the next meeting. Ken, yes? Were you saying something or you're seconding? You're seconding? Okay. All in favor? Jonathan even agrees. Great. Okay. You're it. And so can we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Kevin, seconder Ken, and all in favor? We all want our dinner? Okay, great. Everybody, thanks a lot.
Good night, everybody.
Everyone, good night.
Take care. Bye.